Welcome back to the Next Gen GTM podcast, where we have another awesome guest here to talk to us about everything they're seeing in terms of B2B go-to-market. So today we have Tass, and she is, as I would say, considered by some, definitely by me, as the Beyoncé of B2B SaaS landing pages. And I don't say that lightly, because Tass has managed over 400 different website deployments in her career and has really started to dial in on what it takes to move someone who is right there checking you and your company out to actually getting them to the place they need to go. So welcome, Tass. Would love for you to take a minute and continue your introduction and let people know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Best introduction I've had, someone referring to me and Beyoncé in the same sentence. Self-proclaimed Beyoncé of landing pages. Glad at least one other person agrees.
It's going to become a thing, I think.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, I've worked on 400 websites in my career, fortunately or unfortunately for me. Very traumatic, but has given me lots of experience now that I can bring to other B2B companies. Also, coincidentally, just worked in B2B my entire career. So if someone says Shopify, I'm running in the other direction, cannot help you with your Shopify landing pages. You're going to have to find maybe the Britney Spears of B2C landing pages.
This is a B2B only conversation. So if you've gotten this far on the podcast and you're hoping to hear about Shopify, now is the time to go find another podcast.
This is not for you. I repeat, this is not for you. So don't waste your time. Okay, so I actually spent 99% of my career in-house in digital marketing and website teams, companies, and then ran a couple of them on my own as head of digital and website. So I learned a few things, including the buying process, being both someone who owned the budget, but also was trying to sell to other B2B buyers. And I started looking at it differently because marketers, when we're buying versus marketers when we're selling, we're two different people. And so that's one of the things that I try to talk about in my content, is bringing that marriage together of, let's not have this like weird jargony demon that takes possession over us when we become marketers. How can we market in a way that B2B buyers buy? So that's kind of where it came from. And then landing pages are just like the delivery that's quick, easy. We can test quickly before we invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into website redesigns and getting approvals from a billion stakeholders and all that good stuff, right? It's like, can I have a sandbox where I'm just rapid testing what actually resonates with the ICP and then putting it on the main website with data to back it up?
I love it. And you talk a little bit about, okay, so we get into this mode, right? This jargon mode, and how we think we need to market to people is completely different than how we ourselves operate, which is so a lot of kind of interesting tensions there. If you had to kind of go deeper there, what are the biggest challenges you see, or maybe the root causes, when it comes to really, not doing that, right? Like really getting into this place where we're delivering high converting websites. Can you explain a little bit more about those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of challenges that we have with how we market products on websites, right? And what a buyer actually needs in order to start the exploration process, start to purchase, go on the journey to purchase the product. And I think the first thing is we measure everything based on conversions, right? That's the D2C way. Old Navy sends you an ad for pants. You're kind of in the market for pants. Even then, I have lots of pants tabs open. Like right now, I'm looking for new like workout shoes. And I have like 15 sites open, and they've been open for weeks, right? And they can sit here and do all the A/B testing, but sometimes I'm looking at my phone, sometimes I'm looking on the desktop whenever I have some time. My kids are yelling in my ear, okay, I've abandoned it. That's like a regular B2C type of shopping experience. Now imagine when B2B is involved. You have a product, maybe it's a complex product, maybe it's an expensive product, Maybe your pricing isn't transparent and clear. Maybe I have 5 other people I need approvals from. I need to figure out whether the department is going to adopt it. I need to figure out whether it matches our InfoSec process and legal and procurement process. I have all of these checkboxes I need to do. You changing a few colors on our landing page, they're not going to make that job easier for me, right? So when people ask me, what are the challenges we have today between the website and how we market and how we're actually, how buyers actually buy, it's the fact that we're not giving them all the information they need in order to continue on that buying process and journey, because the B2B journey is very information and research heavy. And I know that. I had to go in, buy a bit, do a bunch of demos. Okay, the business case, how much is the tool going to cost? What are the alternative ways that I'm going to do it? What's the cost of the alternative ways if I were to do it manually, or purchase the solution, present it to my boss has to present it to the CFO, and maybe not in as much detail, but I need to collect all that information. So when a company does something small, like not show me their pricing, where am I going to go get it? I'm going to text my peers and say, hey, have you used XYZ solution? What's the cost that you roughly are running into? Or I'll go to Reddit, which is probably the worst place for me to go because Reddit's extremely honest. And Reddit is going to tell you it's $30,000 and it's absolute garbage. That's what they're going to tell you. So for me, when I'm talking to B2B companies, I'm like, you don't want to share that information, but by not sharing that information, you don't control the narrative. And not to say that they won't still go to Reddit, but you control a little bit of that narrative. So what is your choice? Do you want to stay silent and let someone else speak for you? Or do you want to control the narrative a little bit and put your voice out there? At least it's part of the conversation, right? So Hockey Stack released a report that said for a low ACV product, it takes an average of 34 website touch points before someone even contacts you as an MQL. Looking at that data, we're sitting here just spending so much time and energy with conversion rate optimization, like that's going to make anyone buy faster, right? So that's kind of my biggest thing, is there's a huge discrepancy and we need to be information first, right? Information first on the websites rather than trying to hide and do a click and bait and switch and bait and all of the other hacks that we love to do, to get people to talk to us.
It is so much to unpack there. Let's go. I love this. So the first thing that I loved about what you said was, again, it's not even that we ascribe, like you said, our common understanding of like good marketing that we see every day, right? Is, and I worked at one of the top marketing companies in the entire world that does all the CPG products, right? And so you're thinking about all of those Tide and Pampers commercials and, to your point, branding and pretty pictures. And then you take that and then you ascribe that to a situation that is, like you said, completely different. And I just loved what you said about like, the colors don't matter as much as, are we going to actually get to a place where we can make a go forward decision? Mm-hmm. And I think that is super powerful. The other thing that I'm reflecting on that you said, which I think, I laughed out loud because I think it's genuinely true. When was the last time you got to a B2B landing page and they didn't put up pricing and you thought to yourself, no worries, I'll just sign up for a discovery call and give up 30 minutes of my time to guess, whether this is even in range, right? And I think that is so true, right? We think that we are creating our own optimal outcome by forcing the customer to take a behavior, which is come get into a meeting and be in front of me. And what we're really doing is encouraging them to step out of our playbook and step into the wild, wild west.
And it has a domino effect too, right? So you hide information, you get them to interact with you, you get on a call with them, Now your salesperson and the prospect have both wasted a little bit of time, because say now the salesperson's like, well, our range is somewhere in the 30 to 50,000, and the prospect's like, oh, I had like 10K budgeted for this. I was kind of looking for something around that. You've wasted everybody's time. Now the salesperson's like, oh, marketing sends us such shit leads. And it's like, okay, but that's the thing is, you can employ all the targeting best practices, and you can set everything right up in the platform, and you can do all of that. But the best way to qualify your buyers is by calling them out on those pages, right? Saying who you're for, saying who you're not for, and being very honest about the information. So even there's one of my clients, right? And that's why when I talk to customers and they say, well, pricing is really complicated. We can't put that up because it's based on usage and storage and all of these things. I'll give you an example. One of my customers, great company, high ACV product. It starts at $30,000, very much based on usage, based on seats, based on storage. There's lots of dependencies on their pricing. But even with them, they've put starting ranges on their packages that say starting at 30,000. Well, guess what? Someone coming in there and saying my max is 20,000, I'm probably not the right person for them. Okay, great. So maybe they're not having as much volume of activity, but the activity that they have, their win rate's a lot higher than other companies, right? Because the people who are like, oh yeah, 30, cool. I was thinking about 50. So that's like kind of a good range for me.
Yeah. And, that's the thing, right, about qualification. It can feel like, oh gosh, but if we cut them off too soon, then we won't get our at-bats. But you're just pushing the problem deeper into your playbook.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about your conversion rates, right? Like, so you're negatively impacting your metrics. It's not like you're actually solving that problem. You're just kicking the can into a more, costly place. Versus straight up saying like, hey, if this number is like skyrocketingly high for you, then like it's best that we not chat. I find that so interesting, especially because, we see that all the time, right? Because when we look at how people are trying to drive their meetings through their pipeline, right? It's all about setting qualified meetings. Because if it's not a qualified meeting, you're wasting your customer's time, you're wasting your sales rep's time, and you actually can't go get more opportunities because that little spot on your calendar is completely blocked. And today we see a lot of people using enrichment tools, right, to qualify based on those criteria. Do you work for a company of this size? Or forms, right? Like tell me everything about your life and hit submit. And we call that qualification. But what I hear you saying is you are qualifying at every point on your webpage, well before you get a chance to capture their email and enrich it and have them fill out a form.
I mean, why fill up your CRM with junk? I mean, that's another domino effect problem that happens, right? Suddenly your MOPS team or your RevOps team's under the water because they're sitting here cleaning out the database, having to remove duplicates, take off the junk emails. Oh, this person wasn't qualified. Oh, we have all these people sitting in queue that haven't been followed up with. So your good prospects get lost in there because they're sitting in this form queue, right? But if you, and someone said this, his name is Pranav. I can't remember his last name, but he said, you have no business qualifying your customers. Your customers qualify you, right? They're holding the checks. They qualify you. And so at that point, if you're not honest and transparent from the beginning, you are starting off being deceptive in your relationship with them. You're hiding pricing. You're not telling them a range they can expect. You're not telling them what to expect on the call itself, but you are asking for their most valuable digital currency. One, their information, right? Access to them. Two, you're asking for their time that they don't have a lot of, especially since everybody wants to go up market. So the domino effects are crazy. So it's like, why not take less volume that you can nurture well, and it's the right fit most likely, right? And then just use your messaging to clarify who you're for?
It's, it's really interesting. And we see a lot of innovation happening in that space, right? Because you mentioned, and I think it's the most important thing, the buyer is now driving this journey. They are, they have the steering wheel and they may turn left and they may turn right. And your job is not to say, no, the car can't go that way. The car can't go that way. Because then you're sticking them in traffic, right? No one loves that journey. It's like, I literally just want to take a left. Your job is to be able to pivot and move with them throughout that journey and make it feel like, a drive in the countryside. And I think one of the innovations that we talk about a lot and we focus a lot on is conversational qualification before you ask for their time. And so how do you see the new world of AI and innovation and kind of what we're able to do today helping solve that problem, right? Because like you're not, you could do so much on your website and you can do so much in your forms, but sometimes the best way to understand what a buyer is looking for is to ask. How do you see that coming to life where you play?
And I don't know if this is AI necessarily helping with it, right? Because AI, technology, these are all tools that can help us, right? So we can either use it, it's like a superpower. You can either use it for good or evil. What are you going to use it for? And so, for example, for my own process, when companies reach out to me, I ask specific questions that they could only answer if they were genuinely interested in what I had to offer. So, how much they're spending in paid ads today, do they have the resources to build, the landing pages, that kind of stuff. And then sometimes when they do submit the form and they have not spent on paid ads at all, I already know at this point they're probably not a good fit for my services just yet. Could I take their money? Absolutely, I could take their money. I'm not going to ethically because I wouldn't feel good about, using paid ads to like find product market fit. You're probably too early. There's probably a lot you can do before you get to the point of using paid. To scale because you haven't even set the foundation yet. So I typically follow up with a set of questions right after I see like a form come in. And I'm like, hey, thank you so much. Super exciting stuff that you're doing. Just a couple of questions so that we can honor the time that we spend together. One, do you have product market fit? I noticed that you had answered XYZ to this question. I typically, the companies that get the best out of my service are, 3 million plus, looking to scale, have product market fit, a good set of customers. Let me know if you fit this criteria. If not, I'm happy to refer you to somebody else or help you in a different way, which is telling you where you should go first before I even take a single dollar from you or a single minute of your time. I think some of that can be done with AI. In my opinion, and maybe this is me just being like okay, boomer, but just me being a little more old school. I think AI can help with a lot of things. Like today I was talking to a group of other fractional CMOs, and they were talking about using AI to dedupe a list, do a lot of cleanup and that kind of stuff, like put in a huge document and get the summary, a summarized version, doing qualitative analysis. Cool. Those are great use cases for it. For me personally, I don't know if I would use it customer facing every time. Maybe the first initial step, but then always keeping an eye on it, right? Because AI is, I tell people this all the time. You need to treat AI not like a tool, but like an intern. So you are coaching it constantly, meaning if you do have it customer facing, you still need to keep an eye on it and you need to say, yes, that was good. No, that was not good. And keep refining it over time. You're training it, to be better each time. It's not a set and forget.
100%. And, it's so interesting, so we obviously we're builders of AI. So if everybody else is training interns, we're like, the intern university of whatever. And it's really interesting, right? Because when AI came on the scene, it was really defined by these LLMs, these, OpenAI, GPT, Claude. And what amazed everybody was the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The non-deterministic, you can ask it a question and it's going to remix all this knowledge and give you something that you never thought it would. And that was magic. The problem is there is a lot in our go-to-market motion that is not about being creative in terms of how we want to be precise with our customers. Right? Like how, we don't want to sit there and have AI bippity boppity boo them for 30 minutes when they just want an answer to a single question, or maybe they don't want to talk to AI. They want to talk to a human. And so what we're seeing on the build side of that with products that are building, especially products that are building for go-to-market playbooks, is exactly what you said. This very surgical set of when is the question that we're asking the customer set? Like it's not a, which one should we do? It's like we are going to ask them this question because we know that the way it's worded, the way that we've positioned it is going to help them most clearly understand, what we're trying to say. But when they answer that question, we're going to use AI to understand their answer better than a yes, no. Right? Better that because it may not be a yes, no. It may not be a binary answer. It may be a complicated answer. And so I think that's where, whether you're using AI as a co-pilot to do this, or whether you're buying products that actually automate these, how those products are being built matters, because you have two potential outcomes, right? One outcome is you let the intern go hang out with the CEO and say whatever they want about your company, right? And then, someone comes back to you and is like, who hired this guy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other is you say, look, intern, these are your specific tasks, right? And you're a human, so you're going to know it's not yes or no, binary form fill, or it's like, understand where they're at here, right? Because my qualification criteria might have nuance to it, right? And so I think that's where it gets really exciting, is we can add that nuance, we can understand their answers, and we can use that to guide which question to ask next, which does evolve you from template A, template B, template C, and it does free you from, my humans have to be on this 24/7, and the minute someone comes into web form, it's like we're not doing anything else. But it's a middle ground. And I think that's what you're poking at here is, right, if we just say, let the intern run the show, we already know what that's going to look like.
I mean, that's like anything. You need to set the guardrails for what that is, and what, how you use that for your business. So there are certain things where sometimes you do have to do it manually a few times first in order to understand, is this the best way to do it? And then you train a model to replicate that, because you had enough reps, you understand the patterns, you're able to feed it the patterns in order for it to kind of take it on from you, from that aspect, while still keeping an eye and identifying new patterns, or maybe it reporting back to you what those patterns are, or the new patterns detected, and do we need to evolve it? So yeah, I think that, again, superpower, good or evil, right? If you're using it because you're trying to supplement laziness, right? That's going to be a different thing than if you're using it to become more efficient, become more insightful, poke the creativity from your own brain, provide better experiences. So it just depends on what you're using it for.
I mean, that is so well said. And what's so interesting about the way you shared that is it really is like, if you're trying to manage AI tools, right? And so AI tools are a thing, you can use them, they're co-pilots. A lot of what we talk about, right, is the future of AI agents, right? Agents that can complete work on your behalf without you doing anything. And what's really interesting is you talk about how to manage those tools the same way we talk about how to manage people the right way. And you broke that down into a few key points that I want to highlight for folks. Number one, you drive the playbook first. You as the human say, like, this is what is going to get the outcome. and you do the work of wandering through the woods and trying to figure out the best path and figuring out the insights that your customers are going to do. It's not you take the work you don't want to do and you're lazy and you put it on something else. Like, I think that's so true, right? You're not a lazy manager, you're a bold manager. And then once you've got that secret sauce, you galvanize that into whether it's a human direct report or an AI agent, like you put that on someone else so that you can scale the impact of all of that hard work you just did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really cool. And I haven't heard someone frame it that way of like, AI is not meant to give you a lazy out for solving problems. It's meant to take the problems you've solved and scale the solutions, you know, so you can win.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very cool. And have you started to see, like, you know, I know a lot of people, they hear like, oh, train the model. And we're all like, quick, everybody, go get your, you know, machine learning degree from MIT and call me back when you got it, right? Like, that's like, what is that? Right? I mean, I obviously know what that means. Have you started to see, you know, companies that, you know, like we allow folks to actually go in and set up AI workflows and we walk them through, okay, here's what you're going to ask it to do. Here's what you're looking for. And we give them access to see that process so that they can kind of say, oh, I said that, and that isn't what I meant, and all that stuff. Are you seeing that broadly yet? Or do you think that's just starting?
I mean, I'm not the AI expert by any means. And working with the companies that I work with, everybody is like, now with AI. And everyone's like, what does that even mean? I'm so desensitized. It went from being enamored to now it's like tiring because you hear it all the time and people don't know what it means. And yeah, you're right, where people are like, well, okay, yeah, such a good joke. Let me run to MIT and get my machine learning degree. But I'll tell you what I did do. When AI first came out, there, you know, LinkedIn went rampant. It was like, oh my gosh, like anti-AI or pro-AI camp and everybody. And at the end of the day, people fear what they don't know, right? So if they fear what they don't know, what is a way to conquer that fear? It is to learn and know. In which case, the first thing I did was I went and took an AI masterclass, and it was more about understanding how it works, understanding just how to refine it, how to use it, and you know some key use cases to just get a basic understanding. And this was, I was in-house at the time, and this was before my company even had a POV on AI. So it was like very, very early on when the mumblings just started. And so that's when I learned, okay, the intern versus, right, like a tool. It's not Google search where you put in a search, it doesn't give you something, so you just like change the search a little bit and you try to figure it out. You also have to give it feedback and say, well, that's not what I'm looking for. Or so someone said, talk to AI as if it were a person, which was hilarious to me, but I do it all the time. And one of my friends, she saw the way I was prompting and she was like, why do you tell it like very good or thank you, whatever? And I'm like, well, it's someone told me to treat it like a person. I treat it like a person. I'm kind. I will ask, I will give good or bad feedback and say, well, that's not really what I was looking for. This is what I'm looking for instead. Can you try again? But let's try it with XYZ. That is exactly how I people manage. And that's how I do it with them. And so it's only as good as your instructions. And so if you aren't clear, which here's the funny part, marketing and the whole jargon situation, right? It's going to force marketers to be extremely clear about what they want to accomplish. So if you tell AI, give me 3 steps to revolutionizing my business and my tech stack right now so that I can experience revenue growth, what's AI going to give you? Okay. Versus, hey, could you create a nurture sequence that's to onboard all my free, my freemium users into a paid promotion. The first sequence should talk about how to get started with the freemium, make the best case, best use out of it. The second email should say something along the benefits of upgrading. And the third one should include social proof of members who had gone from free to paid. That's going to give you a far better output than whatever else we said. Now take the same example and apply it to a website. You go to any B2B website right now, what are they promising you? Revenue growth, efficiency. I just had this conversation with the CMO yesterday, and I said, what you offer as a tool that integrates with a CRM and what Asana offers as a project management system is the exact same. You both offer productivity and efficiency. There is no clarity. If I just showed those two sentences to somebody, they would have no idea that one is a project management tool and one is an extension for CRM.
Yep. And it's, it's so interesting because I think as these SaaS products, these B2B products become more capable of doing things end to end, right? Literally, right? The agents we build literally set meetings. That's literally what they do. Yeah. But it's more about, like you said, it's digging into, so what are the specific tasks that I no longer have to do? Not the one me and my tool are like sharing, but the ones that like, because I'm someone who I'm making up wants to set meetings, I never have to reschedule them again. Like that is clarity versus like set and save and keep, so I think, even, self-criticism, right? Like we had to go through that journey. And what's really interesting too, is I think it makes like it's more critical the younger you are, right? To be explicitly clear, right? Because that's like people don't know you. Your brand is not speaking for you. But it's interesting because even as you get bigger, so I've also marketed for the world's top #1 brands. And we always talked about the prototypical benefit, right? Which is, if you close your eyes and you're in the US and I say, close your eyes and imagine a dog. 6 out of 10 people are going to be thinking golden retriever or lab because the prototypical benefit of dog in the US is one of those breeds, right? If I say crest, you are going to think less cavities in my mouth, like shinier, whiter teeth, right? One of those two. And yet, it's the confidence of a wider smile, right? And we would do that stuff, right? Like, and you want to show aspiration, you want to show ultimate benefit. But if you walk away from that priority, that category defining benefit, like priority, I want no cavities in my mouth, then you lose everything, right? So you've got to have the prototypical benefit that you own, even if you're big. You can't just be like, your life will be rainbows and pixie dust and that'll be awesome. So super, I see so much on LinkedIn right now, right? It's a hot topic. It is a spicy topic right now. Okay, so we've talked a lot about, hey, we're using our landing pages to qualify, and qualification now is happening across different parts of, it's happening on your pricing page. It's happening with your messaging. It's happening with the tools that you use to actually move people from intent to getting in front of a human. Talk to me a little bit about when it's time to get in front of a human, right? Because as B2B, there's still that point, right? Where, it's got to get human. Talk me through that bridge.
Yeah. So first, I'm doing some ICP interviews myself right now to understand and make sure that this is not just my opinion, right? And so asking buyers how they buy and what's all the information they need prior to having a conversation with the company, right? Getting set up for a meeting, a demo, whatever. And most of the time they said, I need to understand, number one, pricing transparency. So can I get just a range? They don't need the exact number. What is the process like? If I give you my time, what can I expect? I mean, by now they all kind of understand, I'm going to meet with an SDR who's going to further qualify me on this throwaway. They've literally called the first meeting a throwaway meeting. And then finally, when they get on with the solutions engineer is when they're most excited, which was so interesting for me, that they wanted someone who would actually showcase the product within the context of their custom use case, not just like a demo, right? So when they have all the information, okay, that's an interesting capability. Okay, that's an interesting feature right there. Okay, I understand the pricing. This is great. What am I going to expect on the call? Cool. I need to talk to somebody because I have a little nuance in my situation, right? And I wonder if they can solve for that. Or it might even be that you have all the information you need, but you're just waiting for your manager's approval to move forward. So I use this example in one of my posts, which is I would collect information on vendors. It's Monday. I have my short list who I want to contact. I have all the price ranges. Everything is good. But I can't move forward until my manager says, yeah, go ahead, invest in this process. But my one-on-one with her is on Thursday and it's Monday. So everything's open. I'm not doing anything. I move on with my life. I've had quadruple booked calendars and meetings since then. Thursday rolled around. I go through the list with my manager and I say, hey, yeah, so number 4 is on the list. Oh, by the way, remember we were evaluating that new project management tool. So I'm thinking the best ones for us might be like Airtable, Asana, or Monday. Those are the ones I've narrowed it down to. They're all around the same price point, it looks like, too. But I think I'm ready to talk to them. Are we still pursuing that as a priority? Oh, yes. Okay, great. Awesome. I'll go have the conversations. I'll report back next week. Now I come back to the site directly because I don't find the landing page again, right? Because I saw the landing page through an ad. So now I come back to the site, repeat visit. I go directly to the demo page and I say, hey, ready to talk to somebody. We are evaluating project management tools. Would love to chat with someone about our specific use case and get, some answers on pricing and that kind of stuff. Then you have the conversation and then you're saying, hey, we have these teams. They kind of work interconnected, but we need our own workspaces. Does that work? Do you have like overlapping, workspaces? Do you have a one master dashboard? All of these things that come up in those conversations, but getting a list of like these check boxes to ensure that this is the right company that we want to meet. Or you go off of past experience, right? Jira I used before. I'm like, well, that's probably too complicated for what a team needs. I'm not going to consider Jira. Jira might be considering me, but I'm not considering Jira. So there are those factors that play into it as well.
And it's so funny because another theme that, you keep hitting on is it goes both ways, right? Because a lot of traditional sales folks, like their fear of, it's like the customers like that throwaway meeting, the discovery, the throwaway meeting. It's from a buyer side, if you're ready to go, like you want to get into it, right? You want to get into how is this going to help me? I mean, in our world, people scheduling meetings is all the same. And then you talk to people and it's all different, right? Every playbook, every way people generate these meetings is very, very, very unique. The steps that they take, very similar. The context, really diverse. And so that's what they want to talk about. They want to talk about it through their lens. But I hear salespeople saying though, and I've heard this counterpoint, which is super interesting, right? At the end of the day, we also know that when you get someone in front of a human, when you have a great salesperson that is able to take that tension that they started with and expand it, through relationship, right? Through good discovery, I feel like I've been in front of some salespeople that I walk in and I'm like, I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to get the basic package and we'll keep it right in budget. And then I walk out and I'm going to like someone in my company. I'm like, we need the Maserati Benz of whatever this, I didn't even say that, right? The Mercedes Benz of SaaS, because that guy, he knows me in my soul. He saw me. So I guess my whole point is, as you think it's bi-directional, right? And so even though the customer wants to get in there and get it done quick, a good salesperson can completely change the game as to how much that person really values and needs that product. And so I think the real interesting part of the innovation we see businesses working on is right in the middle of that tension. How do we make it so easy to say, yeah, I got to talk to someone? And then how do we make it so when they finally do get in front of someone, that salesperson is able to just take a little nugget and explode it into tons and tons of value. How do you guide people to solve that tension today, right? Like, you don't want to give a throwaway call because you got to get the salesperson set up for success. But if the buyer stops before the call, you lose too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guide people there?
Well, on the discovery call side of things, the other insight that I got from the ICP interviews was when a company immediately gets on the discovery call and they're like, "Hey, Joe, so yeah, thanks for booking the call with, Acme Corp. As you know, we've been in business for 50 years. We are, our recent valuation was $1.3 billion. The prospect's like, okay. So yeah, listen, the reason why, and it's like, well, listen, we've helped 10,000 companies across the globe. So I think it's very much like dating, right? When you walk into an initial conversation, you're both kind of scoping each other out. So there's a two-way, a qualification process that's going on. Most companies are biased and they think they're the only ones qualifying the customer, right? But the customer is smart and they don't want to waste their time. They're likely in meetings all day long. So they don't want you to waste their time. And what do a lot of companies do? It's like getting on a date with this narcissistic dude who's sitting there and just talking about himself nonstop. And you are sitting there in your head saying, I can't wait until this is over, right? And so that's something that we also need to consider, is getting on there and saying, hey, I know you want a demo, right? So this is where setting expectations before the meeting is important. First, we're going to set up like 30 minutes just to chat. I want to hear about your situation. Then I'm going to bring in a couple of teammates. We're going to customize the demo for you fully. So that's going to be great. And then third, if it's a good fit, you're happy, we'll help you make the business case to get that approval from InfoSec and procurement internally. We'll set you up with a sandbox environment, whatever that is, laying the expectation before they give you their time. So now they already know what the agenda is going into it. So they're not disappointed on the discovery call when a solutions engineer doesn't show up. They understand they're meeting with, an expert in the company, but that expert has a chance now to take one of two paths. The first path is, I'm going to sit here and talk about myself the entire time. And for 30 minutes, just try to like fast and hard sell them into the second meeting. Or I'm going to just take my time and ask them questions about their situation, and not in maybe the first question's a little more like, so tell me what brought you, to us today. I just want to understand your situation, and get them talking. The more they talk, the more you reflect. Do you watch The Office? Yeah. Okay. So Andy in The Office, when they asked him, how do you get people to like you, like you or be friends with you, whatever, and he said mirroring. He said like a few things. He was like mirroring, empathy, and repetition or something like that. That's exactly what you kind of need to do in those calls as well, is just have them feel understood. Put the buyer first. It's all common sense stuff, but somehow we've deviated so far from that because we're under extreme duress with our targets and lower budgets, and everybody's trying to hit quota, and we get it. But being a buyer's advocate, being a guide, not a seller, right? Having those conversations and listening more than you speak, at least during the first one. And then you say, you know what, I would love to invite you to a demo call. Based on all the stuff that you told me, which I wrote down, X, Y, Z, right? I would love to invite you to a demo call. I'm going to share these notes with my team, and we're going to make sure that we kind of address these pain points for you based on your situation. Now they're excited for the demo call, and you can say, bring whoever you'd like that you'd want to see how we do this, right? Bring the people on, demo. Okay, hey, Tass, last time you said that it was super hard for you to work with the other team, even though you had a lot of overlap, you wanted separate workspaces. So look at what we were able to come up here. Here's this like 30,000 foot dashboard view where you can see each other and assign each other's work, but not meddle in each other's workspaces. okay, hot damn, they listened, right? And that's all it is. You want to feel seen and heard as a human being. Hashtag sales. Let's go. Right? So,
Let's go. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. I feel like the Beyoncé of SaaS landing pages has not disappointed. I mean, you just, there's so much here. So at the end, as we get towards the end of every session, we always like to ask the experts if there are 3 things that you would have people go do based on, again, the whole thing about, the podcast and next gen GTM is, with or without technology, the world is shifted. The way people, there's 2 things changing, right? It's the technology, yes, but it's the people and their expectations. What would those 3 things be that you would say to people, that they should consider going and doing right now to kind of be part of this new way that customers are moving, through the B2B process?
okay, my number one thing, well, first, let's just talk about this, which is we've not talked about landing pages at all during this whole podcast, right? But it's the prereq before getting into any kind of output, whether it's emails, landing pages, website, whatever you're doing. It starts with the buyer and how they buy today. As technology progresses, we have more AI, more devices, more platforms, more touch points. It's going to be harder and harder for marketers to track and attribute their activities to how they're bringing buyers in. So I would say, number one, stop obsessing over attribution. Stop obsessing over the things that you cannot control and look at the things that you can control, right? Very cliche. But the first piece is measurement. I'm going to tell any B2B SaaS marketer right now, and I know it's much harder internally. I've had to fight that battle myself, because at the end of the day, you have reporting meetings to go to where you're sitting there with your CMO and your CMO is like, oh, well, is this campaign working? And you're like, well, I mean, kind of, in this way or whatever, kill it. Why are we spending money on it? Kill it. So I think we need to have a fundamental shift, because as the buying journey gets more and more complex, there are more devices, platforms, and their attention is spread thin, right? They're getting information from everywhere, places you can and cannot track. So I need you to look at how buyers are consuming information before they're converting on the information, right? How are your buyers consuming the information that you're putting out? If you are putting out a landing page, place heat maps on there, look at recordings, look at the qualitative data. Maybe you can supplement with AI to help you read the data, right? But understand how they're consuming information on the page, right? Second, then look at conversions, but not just conversions on a landing page or from a specific campaign, but if people are returning to your website direct or organic over a period of time, your return visitors to the site, and then are there paths that they're taking over to pricing, over to demo directly, right? Understand where they're coming from and if they were coming back for second, third, 47th time, and then converting, right? And then set some foundations in place. I think the problem is we don't know whether a campaign is or isn't working because we're trying too hard with the top of funnel campaigns. Let's just pump out this white paper and get 1,800 leads and then we're all good. And then we're like, oh, there's ad fatigue. Let's kill it. Okay, what about if you just put out campaigns that never needed to be killed? They were always on foundational campaigns about your product, about the use cases you solve. You never had to cut them out. You'd never have to have the conversation with the CMO to say, we cancel that use case campaign because it wasn't working. No, now that use case campaign exists as an always available resource to your buyers if they are searching on ways to, solve for that use case. And now you have your product in front of them, right? Be very clear about the product, showcase the product as much as you can, be transparent with information, give them all the information they need in order to self-qualify and contact you when they are ready. So that's kind of my whole philosophy, and the shift that needs to happen is it's not attribution or no attribution. Is marketing contributing to an overall lift? Overall, all channels working together, lift across the main website, across pipeline, across revenue, What is it where I think we get caught up when it's like we try to isolate a single channel. Is paid social working? Is organic social working? You'll never know. You'll never fully know the answer. You can just go off of signals, right? Signals, they're consuming the information, they keep coming back. Okay, they're getting closer. Oh, okay, I've noticed now it takes an average of 7 touch points on a site before a demo. What are those 7 touch points? Understanding, recognizing patterns, and then doubling down based on the patterns. So that's kind of what I think needs to happen, a shift from like channel specific marketing as a whole and looking at signals and knowing where to look for those signals. So that's the biggest thing. And the second is you need to have strong differentiated value, because 2 CRMs, what's gonna like someone's gonna say CRM, what's the first company you think of?
Well, we got the old school one and the new school one, right? And most people, it's going to be Salesforce or HubSpot, right?
Okay, yeah, Salesforce or HubSpot. How would you compete with Salesforce or HubSpot? The only way you can do that is by targeting a specific segment. So if you're like, we are the CRM for dental providers, and you've set it up so it's dental providers. So whatever your differentiated value is, that's the thing that needs to be highlighted. And if you don't have that, I would say you need to spend some time figuring out what that is or create something, because you're just going to be like everybody else, right? And so that's going to make the sell a lot harder for you. So I think having that clear value proposition, what you offer that's different from your competitors, is going to be important. Salesforce is going to be like, okay, go have the dental market. I don't care, right? So otherwise, it's an untouchable level of success you're aiming for. So that's that. And then, yeah, just being very, very specific in your targeting. I think that's the other piece, is like, people love to like, I'm spending $10,000 a month in paid and it's not working. Paid is dead. You see that on LinkedIn all the time. Paid search is dead. And I'm like, okay. And then we audit your account. Your conversion tracking is off. Your targeting is way too broad. You have, the, what's it called? The networks on. So it's like showing your ad to everybody and their brother on some random like cat meme website. Your ads are generic. You're sending people to the homepage. Okay, but paid is dead. We'll blame everybody else except looking at the stuff that we need to change and do perfectly. So yeah, there's a lot of self-reflection that needs to happen, and a mind shift that needs to happen. I know it's a lot harder. Like yesterday, the CMO was like, listen, I'm not into vanity metrics. Like, I understand your consumption thing, but I'm not into vanity metrics. I'm like, I'm not into vanity metrics either. I'm looking at signals for people consuming the information you're giving them, and then eventually booking meetings with you. I don't care about conversions. I care about how it's impacting your pipeline later on. So if you want, I can promise you 1,000 leads. They'll all be junk. I'll give you 1,000. They'll be junk, but I'll give you 1,000. And or you can say, hey, I really want this emphasis on quality, in which case, let's give them all the information to self-qualify and get the right buyers in to have conversations with your company.
I'm just letting everyone sit on that for a minute, because I think it needs a beat. 100%. Well, gosh, I don't know about you, but I feel like there could definitely be a part 2 to this conversation. I feel like there are entire areas of Beyoncé B2B SaaS that we have not dug into. So we'll see what other people think when they hear this, and maybe we'll try to get Tass back. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything. And yeah, we appreciate everything you taught us today.
This was so much fun. Thank you for having me.